just gonna show you this website, but let me tell you about it first. This website scans the internet for unsecured webcams. For example, if I was on Amazon and I bought this little cheap webcam, let's act like this is the webcam and I never put a password on it. The website will automatically scan around and find that webcam and put it on their website as long as it doesn't have a password. And let's be honest, most people who are like in their 50s and 60s aren't that aware that you need to put a password on webcams. So today we're gonna be spying on people's houses.
There is no reason for Chris Brown to be going live on Facebook. We all know why he's going live. He is trying to protect himself.
Symbolism will be their downfall. Or is it just art? And let me be the first to tell you, it's all connected.
I'm back, it's your boy FITTIE, and today we're going to be taking a look at these TikTok videos. Let's try to get me to 30,000 subscribers. Remember to like the video. Let's try to get to 500 likes this video. If you guys like the chain, check the link down in the description.
Look at this screenshot. This is a child on a TikTok live stream, masked and holding a piece of paper that says in Arabic, I want to buy a PlayStation. This child has been sitting in the live stream for hours. Not one breath was heard, nor a single muscle was moved for hours during this live. And of course, many innocent viewers were lured into this live, donating gifts so this child can buy a PlayStation. You see, this is way darker than what you guys think. For all that you know, this child could be abducted or forced by his own family to do this. This child has evidently been forced and suffocated inside of a mask to be a bait for innocent viewers. I have personally seen things like this on the dark web. I've seen live streams very similar to this one. I feel so bad and so disgusted. But unfortunately, there are no identities in this page that we can report. If you see this live, report it. This child's been sitting there for hours and probably doesn't even know what the paper says.
He's a person in the window, but they're not there.
Esto es muy loco. Miren. No se ve nada. No se ve nada. Asustado pero posta. ¿La ven? ¿Llegan a ver? Hay una mujer en la puerta del edificio. Una mujer al lado del portero eléctrico. Esto hay... ¿Lo ven? Acerquemos. Hay una mujer al lado del portero eléctrico. Son las 2:30 de la mañana. Esa imagen ni temprano, apareció recién y no se mueve. Ahora, vamos a ver. No hay nada, ven ahí, no hay nada. No hay nada. Pero cuando yo veo las cámaras, me aparece la mujer por las cámaras. ¿La ven? Una locura. La primera vez en la vida que me aparece esa mujer. Y no son efectos de...
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know, part 43. One of the reasons refrigerators are magnetic is because back during the early 1900s, children used to get stuck inside of these when they were playing hide and go seek, and they would actually suffocate and die. There's actually a condition known as arachnodactyly, and it makes your fingers and your toes appear abnormally long in comparison to your palm and to your foot. It can appear at birth or later on during life, so don't think you're safe just yet. There's a chance that you could experience internal bleeding, but you may not even know it's going on until it's too late. Oh yeah, I didn't know if you knew this or not, but actually when you die, they drain your body of all the blood. They put a tube through your jugular, it goes down a table, and then it empties out into like a sink or a toilet. Yeah, and then it's just replaced with formaldehyde.
Why specifically formaldehyde though? Is that like a specific thing that keeps the body, you know, fresh and presentable? If you know, put your thoughts in the comments.
These are the most haunted places in Egypt. Starting at number 4. The mansion of Izzat Abu Auf. Izzat Abu Auf was a famous Egyptian actor that died in 2019.
People he has hosted over parties at his home have reportedly seen a ghost walking with an old-style lamp in his hand. It is said to be the ghost of one of the previous owners of this home, but we all know what that thing is. Number 3. Barun Impane Palace. People nearby and guards around the palace have seen ghosts and have heard weird voices coming out of this abandoned place. Barun, the owner of this house, used to live here with his family. His wife died in the palace in very mysterious circumstances. A few months later, the daughter died, and a few months later, Barun died. No one was able to find out how they died, but the palace is not a safe place to stay. Number 2. Hilwan Hospital. This is North Africa's most haunted hospital. The family members of King Farouk used to live here. It became a morgue for the family members after they died. People have seen light bulbs flicker by themselves without any reason, and shadows creeping up on them along with children's voices. People have reported extremely negative vibes around this site, and this place remains as one of the world's most haunted abandoned hospitals. And finally, number 1. The Pyramids of Giza. In my True Horrifying Story series, part 48, I spoke about the era of when black magic was the strongest, most dangerous, and nothing compared to how it is today. This era was back during the pharaohs of ancient Egypt. Tutankhamun's grave, the world's most haunted grave, was inside one of these pyramids. Every pyramid used to hold treasures that is guarded by jinns. Thousands of people have died trying to retrieve these treasures up until just recently. Until this day, there are areas in these pyramids that have still not been explored due to the power of jinns that guard them. These pyramids are not just haunted. Walking in them is like walking into hell on earth. You tell me, what country should I do next?
So you still don't believe in ghosts? Well, every once in a while you're gonna come across a video that challenges those beliefs. Notice the way the smoke is going. This thing is going the opposite direction into the fire. These people don't do paranormal content. It's normally about their dogs. So this makes me really believe in this video, that it's true, unedited, and amazing. I'm gonna tag them below in this video. Go back, watch their content, see for yourself. Come back, let me know what you think.
That was definitely not a ghost. Like, in my opinion, that was definitely like a part of the smoke, or maybe like it was cold outside, so it could have been like some sort of vapor from the fire, like anything but a ghost, if you ask me.
This is the story of Robert Berdella, otherwise known as the Butcher of Kansas. In the late 1980s, somewhere between 1984 and 1987, in Kansas City, Missouri, Robert Berdella killed and tortured 6 men at his home. Now, Berdella's fantasies of killing people didn't really surface until about 1967, when he enrolled at the Kansas City Art Institute in hopes of becoming a professor. But instead of fulfilling his fantasies of killing people, he actually started with killing animals and got kicked off campus for killing a dog in the name of art. But shortly after getting kicked out of college, Bob actually opened up his own store called Bob's Bizarre Bazaar, where he would actually sell an absurd amount of very strange and occult-like novelties, like human skulls and shrunken heads. And it wouldn't be too long after opening the store that Berdella's soon-to-be 7th victim, Christopher Bryson, would move on to escape Berdella's 2nd floor in his home and flag down the police so that he can bring them to the scene. It was then made clear that Berdella was operating a torture chamber inside of his own home. Investigators even moved on to find around 340 to 350 Polaroid pictures of his victims while they were being tortured, and some of his victims' dismembered body parts inside of dog food bags. Berdella was then sentenced to life in prison, but actually ended up dying in 1992 due to a heart attack.
Ed found out some ghosts are solid, just like you and me. Ed Cox was driving home from work one night in a rainstorm. While waiting for a light to change, he noticed a young woman waiting by herself at a bus stop. She had no umbrella and was soaking wet. He asked, "Are you going toward Farmington? And if so, would you like a ride?" She replied with, "I am, and I would love a ride." So she got in and told him that her name is Joanna Fittie. After climbing in, she said, "Thank you for rescuing me." He said, "Hi, I'm Ed Cox, and you're welcome." On the way, they talked and they talked. She told him about her family, her job, and where she lived, even where she had gone to school. And he told her about himself. By the time they reached her house, the rain had stopped. "I'm glad it rained," he said. "Would you like to go out tomorrow?" She said, "I'd love to," and asked him to meet her at the bus stop again, since it was near her office. They had a great time, and they went out many times after that. Always they would meet at the bus stop, and then off they'd go. Ed liked her more and more each time he saw her. But one night, Joanna didn't show up at the bus stop. Ed waited there for almost an hour. He thought something must be wrong, so he drove to her house in Farmington. There was a bright porch light on, so he knew someone was home and decided to knock on the door. An older woman came to the door. He said, "Hi, I'm Ed Cox. Maybe Joanna has told you about me. We had a date scheduled for tonight, and we were supposed to meet at the bus stop, but she didn't show up. Is she all right?" The woman looked at him as if he had said something strange. "I'm Joanna's mother," she said slowly. "Joanna isn't here now, but why don't you come in?" After entering the home, Ed pointed at a picture on the mantle. He said, "That looks just like her." "It did. Once," her mother replied. "But that picture was taken when she was your age, about 20 years ago." She said a few days after that was taken, she was waiting at the bus stop in the rain when she was struck by a car and killed on that very spot. Ed was heartbroken, but went back to visit that bus stop many times, just hoping he would see her again. But he never did.
Damn, I know Ed was hurt. In my head, I was like, man, you know what I'm saying? He just lost his girl. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it is nowadays. But then she was like, she's been like dead for 20 years. I'm just like, okay.
Thing about this photo that makes me want to run and hide under the covers. At first glance, this just looks like a photo of a doorway, right? But then you look a little closer. This photo was captured by an Australian man in 2020. He said he was at home alone and heard the sound of feet shuffling around or clothes rubbing against each other. He knew the apartment was empty, all of his roommates were out at work. He began looking around and captured a photograph of a ghostly figure in his hallway. The chilling, white, faceless head is seen peering from behind a door frame. The best part of this story, though, is that this guy immediately moved out. A lot of these people are like, "Oh, I stayed." He's like, "I'm out." He's a smart guy, because if I saw that, I'd make like a bread truck and haul buns. Who or what this is remains a mystery. What are your thoughts on this photo? And also, I'm sorry for the nightmares. Kinda. For more spooky stories, check out the Avery After Dark podcast, available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. This is one of the most bizarre stories to ever come out of Pennsylvania. In Philadelphia, there's been rumors for years about this bus that doesn't have an end destination. It's legendary, and they call it the bus to nowhere. Story goes, the bus only appears to people who are at their lowest and need to get away from their problems quickly. It displays no destination, has no route number, nor does it appear on any transportation maps. Legend says the bus will pick up passengers, but they have no idea how long they've been on the bus for. It could have been hours, days, or even years. Ask some Philadelphians and they will tell you firsthand that they've seen this bus winding its way through town. Where this bus truly goes, no one really knows. But once the passenger is ready to face the world, the bus will stop and they can get off. And if you live or have been to Philly, you may have passed the bus to nowhere and not even known. What are your thoughts? Have you ever seen or heard of the bus to nowhere?
If I ever go to Philly, I'm definitely going to try to look for that bus. If any of you guys ever lived in, if you live in Philly, let me know if you've ever seen it or think you've seen it.
Today I'm going to show you the most disturbing parts of the internet, part 2. In part 1, I made a video about a cave website where the guy mysteriously disappeared and never updated the website. But this one is going to take a whole new approach because today we're going to be actually spying on people. This website is called NCCam. For legal reasons, I'm just going to show you this website, but let me tell you about it first. This website scans the internet for unsecured webcams. For example, if I was on Amazon and I bought this little cheap webcam. Let's act like this is the webcam and I never put a password on it. The website will automatically scan around and find that webcam and put it on their website as long as it doesn't have a password. And let's be honest, most people who are like in their 50s and 60s aren't that aware that you need to put a password on webcams. So today we're gonna be spying on people's houses. This one is in Denver, Colorado, and we can see it says sleep room, and it almost kind of looks like a crib for babies. Here we are, we're in somebody's house, it looks like. This looks like some kind of red room. We're looking at neighborhoods. And the list just keeps going on. That's just to page 54, and there's 947. So if you bought a webcam and you never put a password on it, chances are more than likely that you're on this website. Make sure to like and follow for more videos tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't have a webcam, and I never even knew that you had to put passwords on them. Yeah, so if you have a camera in your house or in front of your door, you might want to put a password on it. I'm not gonna lie, that was new news to me. I don't know how, even know. Yeah.
This is so bizarre. This creepy footage comes to us from Doneen Bull Davis, who lives on the Louis Bull Tribe Reserve in Alberta, Canada. The family was at home one evening when they began to hear a strange voice coming from the wooded area in their backyard. They went outside to check, didn't see anything, but then they begin to hear the mysterious voice start to taunt them. Take a listen.
Come out so I can see you. Come out. Come on. Come out. Come. DJ. Come on up.
The mimicking voice continues, and it starts to escalate.
Come on. Come on. Oh, yeah, let's leave. No.
What? The family was freaked out and called police to come check things out. Officers got to the scene and checked the woods, and one of them said he heard the voice as well, but they couldn't find anyone back there. The family has no idea how to explain any of this. Some believe it's some kind of creature that roams the reserve. What do you think it is?
These girls were out hiking when they encountered a skinwalker. Check it out.
We're frozen here. Because that doesn't sound like coyotes. They got something. Are they getting closer to it? No? No. A biker just went that way, and the sound got worse.
You in a spooky mood? You're about to be. A woman wrote, I was staying at a cottage with 6 friends in North Wales for the weekend. The cottage was owned by my best friend's grandfather in a pretty isolated location. That Saturday morning, we decided to head out to the local market and stopped at a pub on the way back. While sitting at the pub eating lunch, a few of our other friends who were staying in a nearby town walked into the pub and said, oh, we're glad you guys are still here. They hadn't missed us. But this was strange, as we didn't tell them we were stopping at this pub. We asked how on earth did they know that we were here? They said they had phoned the cottage we were staying at, and the lady that answered the phone told them. We were all freaked out, because there was no one else staying at the cottage. No cleaning ladies, no other guests tied to the house. It was empty that day, and for the rest of the trip, I barely slept a wink, just wondering who answered that phone, and how did that woman know where we were? Told ya. Spooky. So, who answered the phone? I'll give you a hint. It's a ghost.
Was me. I answered it, imagine.
I have a lechuza story time. The person who submitted this has been tagged down below. Her name is Margarita. When Margarita was about 12 years old, her and her mom were leaving a relative's house. This particular relative happened to live in the middle of nowhere. As they're making their way home, this car comes out of nowhere and causes them to swerve off the road, almost hitting a ditch. The minute they swerve off the road, Margarita and her mom look up and they see this giant bird just appear out of nowhere. Now this thing was massive. It had this massive wings that were like spread out, but it had the face of an old lady. Margarita's mom immediately grabbed her, like she cuffed her down and started to pray. They stood in the car praying for what felt like forever. Once they looked up, she was no longer there. Even though this story happened many years ago, Margarita has never been able to get this old lady's head out of her head. Like it's like engraved in her head. Her mom is a curandera, so when they made their way back home, her mom did a cleansing thing to try to get rid of any negative energy this lechuza may have left behind. They also lived next to a church, which always made Margarita feel safe. So if you ever happen to be in the middle of nowhere and run across a giant bird with an old lady's face, don't approach it, don't get out of the car, pray and drive off.
Have you ever encountered a creepy doppelganger in real life? Listen to this. A woman wrote of a chilling encounter and said, I was probably about 16 to 17 years old and I had just gotten home from high school. My brother was in the kitchen making a ruckus, so I started that way. As I passed by his bedroom, I saw my mom in there, sitting on his bed with the lights off, facing away from me and towards the wall. I stopped and stood in the doorway and asked her if she was okay and what she was doing. She said really slowly, just sitting, come here, I need to talk to you. I took about a half a step into the room when I heard my mom yelling for me in the kitchen. I turned to look towards the kitchen for a second, and when I looked back, there was no one there. I don't think I ever went back into that room by myself again, even 10 years later. In years since, she's always wondered, who was that in the bedroom? Stories of people seeing their own doppelganger or a loved one's have circulated for years, and the occurrence has never been explained. What's going on here? I got the chills. Do you?
Seeing your own doppelganger in person would be crazy. Like an actual ghost doppelganger? I'm like, yo, what the...
Symbolism will be their downfall. Or is it just art? And let me be the first to tell you, it's all connected. I mean, if you know, you know. But first, let's go back to that video of Ellen DeGenerate. When the camera turns, you can see the inside of her house. Now, see that picture right there? Well, if you pause it and look it up, it says evil thoughts with revenge right next to it. Here's another picture of Ellen in her house, and this is the picture behind her. Now, the thing I'm curious about is the letters on top of the picture. These look oddly similar to the letters Marina Abramovich writes out when she does spirit cooking. Remember the beginning of the video? It's all connected. And that person that was in all red is Lady Gaga, and she went to Marina Abramovich many times for teaching. But let's continue. This is another picture of Ellen in her home. She's cutting her mother's hair, but what is that picture above her head?
Damn, Ellen. I mean, from our previous videos and videos I've seen personally, everyone says that Ellen is like a horrible person. Like, damn. It's crazy because you'll see her on like her game shows and stuff giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars. Everyone's like, yeah, we're winning. Then in the background, they're like, oh yeah, she's a horrible person. Like, she doesn't even treat her workers right or like none of that. Like, that's crazy to hear. Like, if you guys know anything about that, put your thoughts in the comments.
You guys ever heard of this pretty little lady right here? Now, what if I were to tell you that she is real and I have a true story to confirm her existence? But in case you don't know who she even is, her name is Pontianak. Not sure why I'm even saying it out loud, but here we go. A Pontianak is a female D word that can cause serious harm to their victim, like physical harm. She's usually known to have really long black hair. She has pale skin. Normally, you know that she's like in the area or around you if you start to smell this like floral scent. That's usually one of her first signs. According to legend, she can possess a person and the scent of blood is what attracts her. She originates in Malaysia. Now to the story, the person wants to remain anonymous, so let's call her Tina. So a few months after Tina's dad passed away, Tina and the rest of her family ended up moving into a condominium. When they first moved in, everything seemed okay, aside from the fact that there were times where they felt like they were being watched, but they didn't really think much of it. It wasn't until a few months after they moved in that they started to hear humming coming from next door. It sounded like a woman humming. This always started at 12 a.m. every single night. It got to the point that this humming started to disturb their sleep, so they became upset and decided to call security to complain about the next door neighbor constantly humming at 12 a.m. When security came to investigate, they could not hear the humming and dismissed it. About a week later, Tina's sister realizes that the humming is actually coming from the left side, so the left unit, which is a bit weird being that no one even lives in that unit. That unit is completely empty. But one night, Tina and her sister decided to do an experiment. They placed a cup right on the wall and they listened through and could hear that the apartment was completely empty. They could literally hear like the wind flowing in through the window, like there was absolutely no one living in there. But that same night at exactly 12 a.m., they once again hear the humming from the woman. They put the glass cup right next to the wall once again, and they can clearly hear this humming coming from right on the other side. This thing was humming so loudly that Tina was getting chills up and down her body. She then became angry because she's so tired of having this thing constantly disturb her. All she wanted to do was to get some rest, so she bangs on the wall to try to get this thing to stop. It stops like for a little bit, kind of slows down, but then it picks up again. From that point on, Tina's mom started playing mantras every night because they noticed that anytime they had the mantras playing, the humming would completely stop. Until one night that Tina's mom went out of town and left Tina and her sister home alone. Tina's sister noticed that there was a strong flowery type scent, like radiating throughout the whole apartment, which is your number one telltale sign that there's a Pontianak nearby. Tina's sister immediately called Tina into the room to see if Tina could also smell it. Tina was trying to debunk it, thinking that maybe the smell was coming from something in the apartment. So she went around looking, trying to figure out where this flowery scent was coming from. She walked out into the balcony to see maybe it was coming from outside, but couldn't see anything, so she turned her head and she was face to face with this thing. She was slowly just crawling on the side of the building. She had the long, flowy, dark hair and the pale skin, and she was just kind of hanging on to the side of the building. Tina did her hardest to not show any fear in her face because her mom always told her if she ever were to encounter her to not show any fear because this will weaken you even more. She slowly kind of made her way back into the apartment, composed herself, and called her mom to let her know what just happened. Her mom advised her to start playing the prayer mantra to try to get this thing to kind of go away, and told her that she would be home as soon as possible. Within the hour, her mom was home. Tina's mom had it at this point. She decided that she was going to contact a priest to officially get rid of this thing. When the priest came in, he told Tina's mom that this entity had attached itself to the family due to the fact that they were all females. This entity would watch as Tina and her sister, her mom, would brush their hair, and that she admired their long hair. This entity would also rub Tina's sister's arms and legs and admire her skin while she was sleeping. This is the reason why Tina's sister was constantly waking up with bruises all over her. The night that Tina encountered her was the night that this Pontianak was planning on going into the house and taking them because they had no parent watching over them. Tina and her family, of course, ended up asking the priest for help. He ended up coming in and cleansing the home. He recited some verses from the Quran and did a cleansing ritual. He then told Tina's mom that he could never share with anyone what he had to do in order to get rid of this entity. Regardless, Tina and her family were thankful that this entity was banished. They never again heard the humming. And Tina actually had tried to record the humming on one occasion so she can kind of like show to other people and prove that she wasn't going crazy. But when she went to play it back, the humming did not record.
In my head, I'm thinking like, she said female D word at the start of that. I'm like, bro, is TikTok that sensitive that you can't say demon anymore? Because I remember it used to be like die on TikTok and you should take my video down immediately. Like, it's so sensitive over there. How you gonna be admiring someone's skin so heavily that you leave so many bruises on them? It's a little bit odd.
This hotel room is so haunted, it needs a padlock. Spooky. This is room 18 at the St. James Hotel. The St. James Hotel in New Mexico, which once hosted Wild West legends like Jesse James and Buffalo Bill, is one of the most haunted in the state. After opening in 1872, the St. James Hotel quickly became known for its violence. So much so that a common question asked was, who was killed at the St. James last night? But room 18 itself is especially terrifying. Hotel staff keeps it locked because of the ghost of a man named Thomas James Wright. An unhappy spirit, he was killed at the hotel decades before, and his final moments were spent in room 18. People rarely ever enter the room, and no one ever sleeps in it. Thomas's angry ghost does not like company. In the past, he has pushed people down, and guests have felt unsafe in the room. Employees at the hotel consider it to be the most active room, hence the padlock. And rumors afloat that a number of mysterious deaths have occurred there when the room was rented out in the past. What are your thoughts, and what haunted hotel do you want to see next?
These are some of the best paranormal documentaries that I think you should watch. Also, just to say, I'm absolutely covered in plaster, and I don't want to get changed. I was mask making for a show. This is what I looked like a little while ago. Sorry for the jump scares, but let's get into it. First one is an absolute classic. It's called Ghosts on the Underground. It's a BBC documentary and it came out about 20 years ago, and it's all about famous hauntings on the London Underground, and it has lots of first-hand experiences, and it also goes some way to trying to explain scientifically why these hauntings might occur. I think the entire documentary is also available on YouTube, so definitely check that one out. Unsolved Mysteries is probably an obvious choice, but I want to specifically highlight the episode of Unsolved Mysteries that is all about the ghosts of the Japanese tsunami. It's season 2, episode 4. I did a TikTok about this about 2 years ago, all about the ghosts of the tsunami, and it went viral. This episode, season 2, episode 4, is just phenomenal television. It is harrowing, it is devastatingly sad, it is also creepy, supernatural. It is a look at how a community as a whole manages this like widespread grief. It's also a really respectful look at other cultures' attitudes towards death and the supernatural. Oh, it's just, honestly, it's so good. Even if you don't watch any of the rest of the series, watch the Ghosts of the Tsunami episode. This documentary lived in my brain rent-free for a really long time. I also think this is available on YouTube. It is an exploration of sleep paralysis. Now, a lot of people, myself included, don't classify sleep paralysis as anything supernatural. However, what this documentary does is it explores sleep paralysis, what it is, people's experiences with sleep paralysis, but the creep factor comes in when they start to talk about why people all over the world see the same creature during their sleep paralysis. And honestly, it's scary. And as somebody who doesn't suffer from sleep paralysis, thankfully, it changed my views on sleep paralysis significantly. Okay, I know some people are going to roll their eyes at this being included. I am no fan of Zach Bagans. Okay? I love that I say I'm no fan of Zach Bagans while simultaneously visiting his haunted museum. I'm a big fat hypocrite, okay? But here's the thing, right? The reason I included Demon House is because it's actually a really interesting and compelling story in itself. It's a story about a house in Gary, Indiana, where the mother believes that it is haunted and the children start acting really strangely. There are multiple eyewitness accounts from lots of professionals where weird things happen, including some weird exorcist crawling up walls stuff that is witnessed by multiple people. Very strange story. You can watch Demon House on Amazon Prime, by the way. I don't know if I said that already. So the Bray Road Beast, I haven't actually seen yet. However, it is all about a series of alleged werewolf sightings in Wisconsin in the early 1990s. Now, if you're somebody like me who loves folklore and cryptid stories, you will know that these kind of wolf man, wolf beast, dog man stories, they happen all over the world. Now, apparently this documentary is really, really compelling, really interesting. It takes into account eyewitness accounts while also looking at folklore and tries to posit some theories about what the Bray Road Beast might actually be. Apparently it's pretty freaky too. This is a new series that just came out on BBC iPlayer and I really enjoyed it. It is a story about a family in Wales who live in a house that they believe to be haunted, and lots of weird things happened. There's lots of documented evidence of things that happened. I came away from it feeling really conflicted, and I think actually a good paranormal documentary should do that. It's called Paranormal, The Girl, the Ghost and the Gravestone, and the family's trouble all starts when they move a gravestone that was in their house. Well, it technically wasn't in their house, it was like leaning against their house, it was a whole thing. Anyway, they moved the gravestone, weird things start happening. And it's really quite a balanced, skeptical documentary. And I think the host, Shan Ilary, asks the questions that I think you should ask. I don't ever think with paranormal stories that you should just assume that they are paranormal. I think they should be questioned and challenged. And she does that in a pretty direct but respectful way. And like I said, came away completely conflicted. Don't know what I believe about this one. The final one is pretty UK specific. I mean, this came out in 1992, and if you know, you know. Okay. I'm pretty sure you can still get Ghost Watch on like YouTube or whatever, but it was a documentary series that came out in 1992. Well, it was only one episode, but it was a documentation of poltergeist activity in what was alleged to be the most haunted house in Britain. And like, I'm pretty sure this documentary traumatized a nation. Yeah. Anyway, those are my paranormal documentaries that I think you should watch. Let me know if there are any paranormal documentaries that you recommend to people on a regular basis. And also, if you love ghost stories and spooky things in general, I have a podcast called Real Life Ghost Stories, where I tell ghost stories and talk about spooky things in general. Go and listen to it. Thanks, bye.
You sent me a lot of pictures in my DMs, and truthfully, I do check through a lot of those. Michael, if you are watching, the pictures you sent me caught my eye. So he had sent me a series of pictures that he described were taken when him and his friends went to go explore an abandoned building. And that's exactly what this series of photos looked like, but there was one in particular that stood out. But before we jump in, if you are a fan of all things chilling, mysterious, and unexplained, please go check out my podcast, Creep Time the Podcast. The link right in my bio, and also, I made this ad today myself. Isn't it so good? Come on. Okay, let's get back to the picture. That photo that sent chills down my spine. Can't be 100% of what I'm looking at, but that looks like a face. That looks like a face, and this is a real picture. Didn't give me any further information about anything strange that happened. It seems like they just took these photos and then caught this oddity later. Wanted to illustrate for you just how clearly I see this in this picture.
Have you guys ever heard about the Pontianak woman? This is an urban legend that originated in Australia back in the 1950s. As the story goes, there once lived a beautiful Aboriginal woman that was SA'd by a bunch of Japanese fishermen. Once she realized that she had become pregnant, she decided to unalive herself by hanging from a poinciana tree. From that point on, she was cursed to roam for all of eternity in search of men looking for blood. There have even been some recent sightings of her. This photo is believed to be the Poinciana woman. Now story time. For the sake of the story, we're going to call him Kyle. When Kyle was about 12 years old, he was home alone with his 10-year-old brother. Out of nowhere, his 10-year-old brother comes crashing into his room, frantically asking him, "Can you hear that? Can you hear that?" They made their way to the window where they can faintly hear a moan. It almost sounded like a hum. They hear as this thing starts moving around, going from window to window, the humming and the moaning getting louder. They ended up ducking down and trying to hide as best as they could while covering their ears because the moaning was so extremely loud, it was almost as if it was coming from inside their heads. This went on for about 10 minutes, and just how it started, it abruptly stopped. The next day, they found out that their older brother had actually visited an army reserve, and he had been out there taunting the Poinciana woman. He had actually heard footsteps, but assuming that it was security, he took off. The Poinciana woman clearly did not find this amusing, and she decided to show up at his house, looking into each window in search of him. The even creepier part about this whole thing is that long after this happened, Kyle actually realized that they have a Poinciana tree right outside the window where they first heard her.
Have you heard this scary radio transmission people have been hearing? So Mark Connolly was in Grand Rapids last week when he heard something strange come over his radio that interrupted the music he was listening to. He described it as a man's voice but really low and just humming a simple tune that Mark had never heard before. It lasted like 3 seconds, but Mark said his dogs were freaking out when it came on. So Mark does what anyone does, and he goes to the internet where he finds a Reddit thread from 2010 of another woman saying that she heard the exact same thing he did. That was the only thread he could find on the entire internet of someone hearing exactly what Mark had heard, and no one had replied to her Reddit thread. He also noticed that she stopped posting 3 weeks after she reported hearing the noise, and she had been posting like a lot before that. But now when you look it up, like 4 people within the last week have heard this noise all throughout the Midwest. And still, no one knows what it is, but they all say that it comes over usually a car radio around 11:30 at night.
I'm losing my mind over this. This could actually be a picture of the Lone Rock Woman. There are these long-standing legends of Lone Rock Beach of a murderous woman who roams the beach at night and she goes after campers. These police descriptions of a woman with wild hair and these menacing eyes, but it's always just kind of been a story. There was never really any proof of this until a phone turned up on the beach. So 3 teenagers found an iPhone that was abandoned in the sand, and before they turned it in, they did what anybody would do. They would browse the camera roll. They ended up finding this unnerving photo of a woman who clearly took this photo with the self-timer, and she roughly seemed to match the description. When police eventually turned the phone back to the owner, they did not recognize the woman, and nobody else on that beach the day that the photo was taken seemed to spot her, leaving us with the question, could this be the only known photo of the murderous woman of Lone Rock Beach? I think a lot about the story behind this picture. No matter how many times I tell it, it's still chilling. In the 18th district of Hong Kong in the early 2000s, this picture was captured outside of an apartment window. What the news articles described was that witnesses saw her, she appeared to be having some kind of psychotic episode, and they thought that was the end of it. It was just a midday bizarre disruption. What they didn't know was that this person would become the primary suspect in one of the worst murders the 18th district would ever see. Roughly 40 minutes, maybe after that picture was taken, and about 2 miles from the location, a family home of 9 was broken into with only 1 person surviving that attack. Now, the sole survivor of the attack was able to give a witness testimony to the police. This is the only photo they've ever run of the suspect on television, but what he described she did almost sounded inhuman. Breaking bones, ripping people's jaws open with her bare hands, even a report that she tried to eat people. This frame is the only one we got of her.
Yo, what do you gotta be on to try to eat people? Like, every time I hear about, oh yeah, he was trying to eat people, I'm like, yo, what are you on? Like, it's not normal. Mostly uncooked. Like, you don't even eat uncooked food. So why an uncooked human? I mean, you shouldn't eat it. You know what I'm trying to say.
He thought the noise was his friends, but what he finds out will haunt you. In 2015, a college student sat alone in his friend's basement trying to get some work done, but as soon as he began, some strange noises echoed through the floorboards above him. It sounded like furniture was being moved. He attempted to shut it out, yet the noises kept getting louder and more unbearable. Unable to concentrate, he picked up his phone to text his friends upstairs. But as he typed out the message, a deep sense of dread washed over him, and his friend's reply was chilling. No one is home. We went to Wisconsin for the weekend. With his heart racing, the student stumbled out of the basement and ran to the nearest window. Peering inside, he saw the darkness of the empty house, with no sign of anyone being there. He had been completely alone the whole time. Follow for more creepy stories.
So I want to tell you about the story of Brittany Kilgore. Brittany Kilgore, she was 22 years old. She was married to a Marine. They kind of rushed into their marriage, and she ended up having like some regrets about it. She was planning on getting a divorce and moving back home, but she couldn't move all of her stuff by herself. So she asked for some help from one of the guys that lived on the base, Luis Perez, and he was like, well, listen, if you go out on a date with me, I'll help you. She was like, no. She shot him down a bunch of times. No. So eventually he was like, okay, listen, all you gotta do is go out with me. We'll go get on this dinner cruise thing. The next morning, I'll get a bunch of my Marine friends. We'll help you pack your stuff up. You can be out of here. And so eventually she was like, okay, whatever. I'll do it, right? So she was sending her friends messages saying he was creepy and all this stuff. He picked her up and she was never sending it.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. So I be trying to tell y'all, man, you gotta be careful who you be chilling with, man. Mostly as a female, I feel like females have it a lot worse because, like, you really never know sometimes. Unless you really know the person, you really never know what you're getting into.
Unexplained caught on camera. Part 1.
You okay? What the hell? What the f*** is going on here? There ain't nobody there. Miss? Hello?
Watching that again, as Mark walks towards the car, you can hear what sounds like a woman crying.
You okay?
When he looks closer, there's no one in or around the car.
What the f is going on here? There ain't nobody there. Miss? Hello?
Despite only running through a wire fence, the car looks pretty badly damaged.
What the hell? What the f is going on here? There ain't nobody there. Miss? Hello?
So if there's no one in the car, then where's the crying coming from?
Yo, I know he was tripped out. He was like, yo, what the? You could even hear him. He was like, yo, what the hell? Yo, what's going on? No one was there. That's kind of strange.
Y'all, I got some more news for y'all. So just randomly, just out of nowhere, just randomly, y'all, why is Chris Brown live on Facebook? Y'all need to think about that for a second. He is literally live right now. In case something happens to him, you got that motherfucker on film. This can also be a scare tactic. She could be trying to make everybody who's buying the tickets, trying to go to Chris Brown's concert, trying to make them scared, to not make them be involved in this mess. And even trying to knock out Chris Brown's tour with, you know, how good he does in his shows. There is no reason for Chris Brown to be going live on Facebook. We all know why he's going live. He is trying to protect himself. And if anything happens to him, he has that motherfucker on film, y'all. Now, Chris Brown, you are very smart. You are very smart. Keep doing what you have to do, okay? Keep selling out these shows. Keep...
Bro, I had nothing to say. He was like, just keep shutting out these shows, bro. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like all celebrities have stalkers, if I'm being honest. It's just some of them get close, some of them don't. That's why you gotta always have security. Shaking my head. But anyways, if you guys like the video, please like the video. Let's try to get me to 30,000 subs. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I'm dropping videos a couple times a week. I've been pretty consistent lately. If you guys want more, if you guys want to check out my second reaction channel, check the link down in the description, or it should pop up like somewhere right here, pretty sure. So check that out. Thank y'all for watching. Peace out.